So, this is our last week of our 40-day journey of letting go. I know many of you have been following along in the booklet. Many of you have read, I think Larry told me 2 weeks ago, he read the whole book all the way through, got ahead of us. And today, our focus is on stepping into that divine flow of life by letting go of the outcomes we want for ourselves. This is when we fully release our attachment. Fully. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, we know that many of us release our attachment to a point. We say, oh no, I'm open to that, except for blank. So we're still holding on with some level of control. But in Jesus' final days on this earth, Jesus felt the need to be in Jerusalem, to go to Jerusalem, to take that journey, knowing this might not be pretty. This might not be easy, but he felt compelled to go. Many of us have been in that situation where we felt compelled to do something, even when we know it might be a little shaky. But that sense that we have in our inner self, that need to do something, is different than the mind control of what has to be done in order for our life to be right. But when he made that move, he was willing to be open to the divine flow of life. And you know, we've talked about the river, the lazy river, the importance of stepping into the river and just laying back on that inner tube and letting life take you where you need to go without holding on. But that's not as easy as we think. Many of us know that. To step into the divine flow, to really do that, we have to let go of our beliefs, our false beliefs, anything that does not support our highest good and our freedom is a false belief. If you hold beliefs of any kind that do not support who you are, who you want to be, the life you want to have, then that's your mind. And your mind is telling you you don't deserve those things. You don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to be healthy. Health is impossible in your life. But those of us who have taken that journey know that all things are possible when we just get out of our own way. If a belief doesn't support our freedom or the freedom of other people to be who they need to be in this lifetime, we are trying to control. Now, how many of us might be willing to be free ourselves, but we want to make sure everyone else we are trying to control does it our way? Yeah, raise your hand if you want to join me. Yeah, okay. So we're all human, right? We're all human. It's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing struggle at times, but we see signs of us being able to do that. Letting go of the outcome means we have to trust that whatever is happening or is about to happen is meant for us to experience and learn. Now, that's not easy in terms of grief. That's not easy in terms of loss of a job, loss of a relationship. It's not easy. I get it. But it's necessary. We have to trust that whatever is in front of us is an experience. It's not a punishment. It's an experience. What can we gain from it? What's the golden nugget that will come from it? We have to have faith and be totally vulnerable. Many people don't like to be vulnerable. But that's our only option, is to be vulnerable to one another, to say it's not good when it isn't good, to say it's great when it's great. Now, many of you know I left here 2 weeks ago and was on a journey to first finish all the interviews for my second ordination and to take a trip, right? Okay, well, the trip didn't happen, so let's start with that. So I'm going to give you a rundown of my inability to let go in the first 7 days of 14 of chaos. I'll be vulnerable and share. Okay, it started on Monday the 11th when we got the call that the new building wasn't going to arrive because it needed to have a different kind of wrap to make the drive from Georgia down. Okay, no big deal. One more time, I'll stand up here and say the building didn't arrive. That wouldn't be the first, right? Okay, that afternoon, I'm having my first of the panel progress interviews. And I had already been stressed over studying and preparing and thinking about what this really means and all the pressure I put on myself. And for the first time, I had technical difficulties. All right, I'm on Zoom all the time, but now I actually have no microphone or audio, and 26 people are in this waiting room, and they tell me it's my time to go, and I can't speak, and they can't hear me, and they can't see me. You know, I'm waving, nobody can see me. Okay, turns out that all the practice I had done on Zoom, I'd forgotten to close it. So when I got on their platform, it couldn't pick it up. Okay, so now I go in, I'm literally shaking. And they say, oh, it's nice to have you. And I'm like, and then they tell me, okay, we're going to have you do your talk first. Oh, God, I'm thinking, I can't even speak. So I said, I was totally vulnerable and said, I'm really, really anxious. I need a moment. And they said, yeah, we heard you had problems. I go, yeah, 20 minutes worth. And then I was told you're waiting, and the anxiety kicked in. So that night, Jeffrey has this knee that starting to look like a cantaloupe. And I'm like, okay, I make it through my interview. Jeffrey's got a huge knee. Next day he gets an x-ray. It's getting bigger. We have to go see an orthopedic doctor. Wednesday comes, 2 panel back-to-back interviews for me. Jeffrey hasn't been to bed. I haven't been to bed. The septic tank at the church is bubbling out of the ground. The bathrooms are backing up in this building because the breakers were shut off somehow and a wire was pulled out. Don't know what happened. So now I'm on the phone getting septic help. Thursday morning, I take Jeffrey to the orthopedic doctor. They removed 2 syringes of fluid from his knee, put in cortisone, and he's in agony. We cancel our trip to Maryland. Septic gets repaired. I'm on the phone with Janet. She's taking me around to 3 contractors, and she's doing the talking for me. And I'm managing Jeffrey, putting him back in the house. And now Thursday comes, right, evening, and they're going to tell me whether I passed or not. And at this point, I don't care. I'm not going to lie. I am not going to lie. I was like, I have my doctorate. I have 1 ordination. What's the worst case scenario? All right? What's the worst case scenario? But honestly, exactly. I thought, I don't care. I can't take one more thing. So I get on, and they're like, hello. And I'm like, hello. And all I can say is that she was talking, and she showed me a line that I honestly couldn't see. She said, can you see that? I go, nope. Because I was just so anxious, I honestly couldn't read. And it says, I've been recommended for my ordination. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So the next thing that happened was that I burst out crying in front of them. And she said, you must be so happy. And I was like, yeah, I said, I said, it has been 2.5 really long years. And she said, well, what made you do this? May I ask? I said, these people. I said, I either had to say goodbye after my almost 4 years here or do this. That was going to be the kicker. And I said, if you met our congregation, and I'm not lying, this is what I said to her, if you knew our congregation, you would know why I did this. And from that moment on, everything they said, I have no idea. I checked out with the check done. Check done. I just smiled, said thank you a bunch of times, but I have no idea what was said. And she said, well, we could read this to you. I go, no need. It's good. I'm good. I'm good. So that's how my first week went. And the second week turned around. The building showed up, right? And the septic tank was fixed. And Reverend Greg was here. I didn't need to worry about anything. And I drove Jeffrey down here. I'm his new Uber driver. So I brought him down here 3 times to sign checks and see the building. And, you know, we said juggling jobs, juggling melody, juggling life. We just said, we got to give it up. It wasn't meant to be that we leave during that time. It wasn't meant to be. And just so you know, we have an MRI coming up this week, and I'll keep you posted. But in all of that, I was asking the question, what is happening here? But the truth is, I should have been asking, how is the universe supporting me? Because in so many ways, the universe was supporting me. No sleep, running around like a crazy woman, picking the kid up at 7, driving him down here, running my job, running the church. And I thought, but I did it all. And why was I worried? How do I not know to give it up 7 days earlier? With all I know, how did I not know? Because I'm human, and I'm always going to resort back to trying to control the outcome until I stop and get out of the way. So we need to be thinking about, how is the universe supporting me? Einstein said the most important decision we make is whether we believe we live in a friendly or a hostile universe. And that's the hardest part when you're struggling. Is the world on my side, or is the world against me? But believing in a friendly universe means we're receptive to whatever is coming our way, that we surrender to those challenges. You know, our lives, we talk about this in our principles, our lives reflect where we put our attention. So if everything's on the chaos, the life gets more chaotic. And if our attention's on the way the world is supporting us, life starts to unfold without our 2 cents, without our control. Charles Fillmore taught that we cannot be fully receptive to God's grace until we surrender to God's will. And what that means is this, he said, as humans, we are less trusting of releasing our control and embracing the concept of letting go and letting God, because we think we know what is best for us. Now, I want you to just think about that for a minute. How often are you sure you know what's best for you? Our egos try to convince us that resurrecting ourselves from our problems requires our own crucifixion and suffering first. Think that through. How many times have you crucified yourself? Put yourself through the worst test of life because you just couldn't get out of the way. But that isn't what was intended for our life. As some of us have learned through the Course in Miracles, letting go of the outcome requires forgetting what we think we need. It's about releasing the need to control the outcome or the terms in which the solution shows up in our life. The resolution to our problems may be completely different from what we might envision and surpass any solution we may have considered. But we have to surrender from that outcome to create space for the solution to come forth. I like how Eckhart Tolle describes surrendering. He says surrender means saying yes to life and seeing how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. He says that the best way of doing this is to think of it as yielding to the flow of life rather than opposing it, not having that inner resistance. And he gives us a great example. It's one of my favorite in his book. He said if you were stuck in the mud somewhere, you wouldn't say, okay, I resign myself to being stuck in the mud. Resignation, he said, is not surrender. We don't need to accept an undesirable or unpleasant life situation, nor do we need to try and convince ourselves that there is nothing wrong with being stuck in the mud. So we have to get to that place where we understand that we want to get out of that situation and focus our attention on what's happening in front of us without giving it labels and notes. Just see it, recognize what you need to do, and step back and get out of the way. Ultimately, what I want us to think about is that we were placed on this earth to gain wisdom from all of our experiences and to grow ourselves in the process. But we have to be willing to have faith enough to trust that this world will support us on the journey we are here for. If you think of it like this, I was trying to think of a way to describe it because I'm a visual. And I see it as like that river concept. If the river's going to go anyway and that's my life, why wouldn't I just get in and go? Instead of going, maybe, maybe not, maybe, maybe not. Right? Put the foot in, take the foot out. Oh, maybe the kayak, maybe the canoe. How about just get in? And what if we could do that all the time and not take 7 days to get to that place of consciousness where we release? Life is a balance between the diversions and the detours, Sir John Templeton said. Our ability to learn how to accept difficulties with grace, to release our need to decide how life should be, is critical to our ability to live in grace. And wouldn't it be easier in the long run for us to release all expectations in advance and skip the whole suffering part? Let's review our takeaways for today. Letting go of the outcome requires us to do the following. Number 1, eliminate false thoughts and beliefs and release attachments to past and future. Number 2, to trust whatever is happening. Our earthly journey is about learning. Number 3, to learn to be vulnerable and be receptive to God's grace. Number 4, to practice saying yes to life and to yield to the flow of life. And the affirmation for today is, I let go of outcomes. Let's say that together. I let go of outcomes. And our quote is from Marianne Williamson. Surrender means, by definition, giving up attachment to results. When we surrender to God, we let go of our attachment to how things happen on the outside, and we become more concerned with what is happening on the inside. Let's take that in. So we pause now to reflect upon the gift within us to know, to let go early, to release our attachment to outcome, to stop thinking we know what's best, to live in grace, in peace, and in the divine flow of life. And so it is. Thank you, God. Amen.